Welcome to Stokastic's NFL Preseason Live Before Lock, presented by PrizePicks. We'll talk about PrizePicks later on. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm here with Matt Gajewski. Some call him the preseason pioneer. You can find him on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. We're going to talk about this 6-game slate. We're going to go game by game here, talking about this slate. But before we get into it, Matt, I know everybody is going to want to hear about my Dynasty decision right now. I just joined the Stokastic Dynasty League, and I'm on the clock right now. I just got on the clock. I have 4 hours to make a pick. I got to ask your opinion because I really want to take Jordan Addison. You know, I'm a big Vikings fan. JSN is on the board, though, as well. I need wide receiver help, like, immediately. Would I be crazy to take Addison over JSN?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think they both have similar draft capital, both highly productive in college. Addison has the better path to targets right now, so I definitely don't think it's crazy. But I also am not a dynasty guy, so take that for what it's worth.
I just wanted your permission, so that's good enough for me. You've given me permission to take my guy Addison. I think I'm just going to do it. You forego maybe a little bit of like ADP value, whatever. I'm okay with it. Are you prepared to go game by? I pulled up your projections, Matt. I know you did a run just recently, so I've got the updated projections here. Are you prepared to go game by game on this one?
Yeah, ready to go.
Hell yeah. Well, we're going to start with Giants at Detroit. This game has the Giants have a 19.25 implied total. Oh, I should do this in the order that I gave Jordan on the sheet. So let me change up the order. It's different than what we have in Fantasy Cruncher because we have multiple games starting at once. So I'm going to do it based on the order that I gave Jordan. The first game that we have is Packers and Bengals. We have the Packers having 19.5 implied team total, Bengals 15.5. Starting with the quarterbacks, Matt. Any interest in the quarterbacks in this game?
For the Packers, not really. It's a tricky situation with Green Bay because you're going to see Jordan Love play some snaps. We don't know how much, but it's a very young team. Green Bay has the youngest skill position group in the NFL, especially when you isolate receivers. So they've been pretty vocal about wanting to actually get Love out there. And then they have a backup quarterback battle as well. So they drafted Sean Clifford in the 5th round. They signed Alex Magoo, who was the MVP of the USFL. He was previously drafted in 2018 by the Seattle Seahawks. So he's not just some slouch off the street. You're going to probably see pretty even splits at quarterback tonight for this team and probably throughout the preseason, unless something crazy happens. And then the Bengals are carrying 4 quarterbacks. We're not expecting Burrow to play. He's dealing with that calf injury.
Right.
But they're probably still going to split this 3 ways. So not a lot of interest in Simeon, Browning, or Reed Sinnett. This is a pretty low priority in terms of quarterback on this slate overall.
Okay, and it looks like you have I am sorted by my prediction. Looks like you have Magoo projected just slightly better than Sean Clifford. That's not right? That's weird that it's showing up out of order for me for some reason. But based on the numbers,
yeah, Clifford would be the best one here. He's actually projected pretty well. There are other guys I like more, but if you're playing a lot of tournaments, I can see throwing Clifford in there. They've been pretty vocal about getting him a lot of work. Green Bay is essentially trying to find the backup, and they spent more on Clifford, so he's probably the guy they look at most. So I don't hate Clifford. I actually have some of him, but if you're running like one lineup or something, I would look elsewhere. But those of you running 150, running, I don't know, anywhere 20 to 150, sprinkle Clifford.
Okay, so Clifford's you're not playing any of Magoo then?
Let me look. Let's see. Magoo, I have 0.
Okay.
No, I have 3%. Sorry.
Okay. It's tough because you only have them projected 0.6 worse. So like you have Clifford as the better projection of the two, but it's so hard with these like the low projections in preseason. It's like they're so close that it's one play is the difference really. So
yeah, you guys will see where I'm allocating most of my resources. Green Bay, I've got a little bit. 5% Clifford, 3% Magoo.
I think we go straight to pass catchers here before we do running backs, just because we're already talking about the quarterbacks. Let's talk about the entire stack first. So are there any particular pass catchers, either wide receivers or tight ends, that you're targeting from Green Bay?
I don't stack in preseason. I don't make it a rule.
All right.
And that's because not only do you have to predict how much playing time players are going to get, but you have to predict which quarterback they're going to be with. Some situations are easier than others. So if you can easily create those rules, then it makes sense. But for the Packers specifically, you're probably looking at like Jaden Reed and some of the starters with Love. But then once you get to the Clifford and the third unit, I mean, we're really throwing dice here. So I'm not really prioritizing stacks at all, to be honest with you. But for the
Okay.
Packers, in terms of their receiving outlook, I do think the players that play the most here are Jaden Reed. That's especially going to be with the Love group. Dontavian Wicks and Bo Melton. These are pretty young players for this team. Samori Torre, I would rank fourth in that group. But outside of Reed, who they allocated a lot of draft capital to, Dontavian Wicks is a fifth round pick for them. He's kind of battling with Torre and Bo Melton and Malik Heath to actually make this roster. So those are players I anticipate getting a little bit of time with Love and then probably a bunch of time with Clifford. And I'm sprinkling all of them in as well, just not heavily allocated to the Packers, but worthwhile in larger field. They have 11 receivers active tonight. So that's a lot more than other teams. We're going to find a lot of situations where you'll see 8 and 9, which just a little more condensed.
Okay. And then, I mean, they've got these tight ends, these rookie tight ends. I know there's been a lot of hype on Luke Musgrave recently. You don't have a projection as well as the receivers, but I know that in like some practices, he was like playing every snap. Do you have any interest there in Musgrave or Tucker Kraft?
Yeah, I have interest in both. Playing more Musgrave, that's largely because the Packers are only carrying 4 tight ends. That's the higher end of the range here. Every team should be looking somewhere between 4 and 6 tight ends. Right now, I currently have 3 teams projected for 4. Green Bay is one of them. Musgrave, he's basically a receiver on the field. A large majority of his snaps come in the slot. And I think when the first team is out there with the Packers, you're going to see them try to use this 12 personnel, which they project to use a lot in the regular season, which will put Tucker Kraft and Musgrave on the field. But with Musgrave just having a little bit more of that receiving ability, he's somebody I do want to target quite a bit here. I have him. He is my third most owned tight end, tied for second, actually.
All right. And he's so fun. He's just like everything I hear about him. Luke Musgrave, he's so athletic. He's like a great opportunity. I'm getting more and more hyped for Luke Musgrave in best ball. I know you and I have been talking a lot of best ball, but I'm starting to buy into the hype a little bit with Luke Musgrave. So hopefully he has a good showing tonight. Mitchell Tyler says, I hope Love does well. I'm a Green Bay fan. I know you like your Vikings. Good luck this year. Should be fun. Yeah, I am not cheering for Jordan Love to be good after decades of these Packers quarterbacks, Favre and then Aaron Rodgers being so great. Like they cannot do it to me again. Gajewski, I know you live in Wisconsin, but you're not a Packers fan, correct?
I'm a Bears fan.
That's right.
I'm like you, Neil. I'm like you.
So we can cheer against Jordan Love together. Sorry, Mitchell. Can't cheer for it. All right. How about the running backs for Green Bay? And going forward, since you're not stacking, we'll just go in order: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. But for this game, we got to finish it up with running backs from Green Bay. Any interest?
A lot of interest. This is a really good situation to target. They're only going to have 4 active backs. Lou Nichols is injured. Jones and Dillon aren't going to play. They didn't play last preseason. They just signed Nate McCrary on the 8th. He actually played in the Hall of Fame game. He's not going to play really more than a couple snaps, I would anticipate. So you have a battle for running back 3 behind Dillon and Jones. It's Patrick Taylor versus Goodson. They had this battle last year, and Patrick Taylor won, but that really didn't mean too much in terms of Goodson's workload. He still outplayed him in the preseason. Goodson's the younger player, came out of the college ranks in 2022 versus 2020 for Taylor. So I do have a slight preference to Taylor. I think he I have a slight preference to Goodson. I think he outtouches Taylor slightly, but this is a really good running back room to target. Getting both of those guys and sprinkling a little bit of Emmanuel Wilson. I think when they use the Magoo group and they're cleaning up in the fourth quarter, it's largely going to be him. And that's when you see the elevated run rates.
Okay. I think that I started by asking about quarterbacks for both teams. Then I just asked you about the Packers. So I know you said not a ton of interest in Cincinnati quarterbacks. How about running backs for Cincinnati? Any interest there?
This situation is decent. I think they're going to have 5 active. So it's not quite as enticing as Green Bay. But I think if you want to look to somebody here, it's probably Chase Brown, just the guy they're trying to evaluate. He's kind of battling Chris Evans, I think, for this backup running back 3 role right now. We'll see. I would rather go elsewhere, but for large field tournaments, I think you could dabble with that.
Okay. GA007 first says Packers not good equals Caleb Williams. That is a good. I don't think they're gonna be that bad that they would get Caleb Williams, but maybe
their win total is like 8. Yeah.
But then he also asked, would you play both of the Packers backs in the same lineup?
I actually was debating that for a lot of the day. Went back and forth for a long time on this. I eventually did create the rule where I want to limit them. And I think that's just because of the touchdown distributions. These teams don't score a lot.
Right.
What are the chances they both score? And there's actually some really good backs in other situations. So rather than take on the opportunity cost, I made the decision not to. But I wrestled with this the whole day. It wasn't an easy decision.
Yeah, it's a good question. Kem asks, why the hell isn't Jameson Williams on the slate on FanDuel? I didn't realize that he's not on the slate on FanDuel. Yeah, it's weird.
I didn't realize it. I'm not playing over there today. Their prize pools are quite bad. So I did not play FanDuel.
Yeah. And then,
but that is egregious. He's the best receiver by far.
Do you have any, is it even worth talking about defenses on this slate at all? Like, should we even, like, you have the exact same projection for every defense. It's just kind of a, throwing shit against the wall, right?
Yeah. I just turn up randomness and take what I get.
Do you play any, like offensive players versus defense? Are you willing to play your quarterback against the opposing defense?
Yeah, I am. I have that increased to 3 players versus defense.
Okay. So I think that's really the only important talking point as far as defenses go. Like, yes, you are willing to play opposing players against the defense.
And the only thing I would say, like, if you're playing one lineup or something, break ties by looking at the opposing quarterbacks. Like, I would want to play against the weakest quarterbacks on the slate. So, like Cincinnati's going to face Jordan Love. You might not think much of Jordan Love in respects to all of the other signal colors in the NFL, the starters at least. But in the context of preseason, he's probably one of the best guys that's actually going to see the field tonight. So, to break ties, if you're running one lineup or something, that's something I would do.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Anthony Massilia says that James Williams is on FanDuel, but you have to look up his name and he comes up for what it's worth. And then Cincinnati pass catchers. So you said you're not really interested in the quarterback. So you're going to play any pass catchers just by themselves?
They have 9 receivers. That's really good. There's 2 teams with 8, 2 teams with 9. So Cincinnati, definitely a team you can run naked wide receivers from. I think to prioritize these players, you're looking at Charlie Jones, 4th round pick out of Purdue. He's kind of vying for this backup slot role. And then you have Andre Iosivas from Princeton, a 6th round pick. This guy, low level of competition, of course, but ran a 4.43 at 212 pounds. These guys are battling to make the roster versus Trenton Irwin and Kwame Lassiter, Stanley Morgan, these like back of the roster guys. And because they were drafted, you'd like to think Cincinnati's going to evaluate them, see what they have. Those are my 2 favorite, Charlie Jones and Andre Iosivas.
Okay, good to hear. And then any tight end interest on Cincinnati?
I don't believe I have any. I'm just going to keep referencing my exposures for these tight ends. Okay. I have 2 lineups with Tanner Hudson.
Okay.
Which, they have a ton of tight ends, but Tanner Hudson, he's like a receiving threat. So he's been the preseason GOAT in previous years with Tampa Bay.
And to put it into context, are you playing 150 lineups, you say?
I'm playing 100.
Okay. So you're whatever you say the number is, that's like your percentage also. That's good. Easy, good and easy.
Easy math.
Anything else you want to say about this game before we move on?
I don't think so. If you have a question, of course, leave it in chat, but I think I highlighted everyone in my player pool.
Okay, perfect. Second game on the slate, we've got Falcons versus Dolphins. The Falcons have a 19.5 implied team total, Dolphins at 17.5. Starting with the Falcons. Let's go Falcons first, Matt. Quarterbacks for the Falcons. Any interest here?
Not really. I think you're going to see a quarter-ish from Ritter. They've been kind of quiet on their starters, but Heineke and Woodside are there. Those are guys that have both. Heineke especially started games. Woodside's been a backup for a long time, especially with Tennessee. I think you're looking at a pretty even split for quarterbacks in Atlanta. I don't have any.
Okay. No interest in the quarterbacks. How about running backs for Atlanta?
Yeah, this is actually pretty interesting. They're only carrying 5, and I don't think you see much Bijan. I am anticipating he plays a little bit with the Ritter group, but then you have Cordell Patterson. He's not going to play. He just gets veteran treatment. Last year, he only had 2 preseason snaps. Algier rushed for 1,000 yards last year. He's locked in. So when they go to the backups, which projects to be over half this game, I think you're going to see a lot of Godwin Igbuike and Carlos Washington Jr. Have plenty of these two. Not really a good read on who plays more. I would guess it's Igbuike. He's just been in the NFL longer, played with Detroit last preseason, but it's just a guess. Basically split between these two.
Okay, I'm just checking because somebody in chat just said that Ritter is out. I don't have confirmation of that. I'll keep looking.
Yeah,
but
that would be news to me. That wasn't announced earlier today.
Okay,
but then I would have more interest in Woodside and Heineke.
Yeah, I'll look on X to see if I can find any more news. But at a glance, I didn't see any news on Ritter being out.
Underdog didn't tweet it, which
feels like they would if it had come out. Any interest in wide receivers for the Falcons?
Not a ton. Atlanta's carrying a pretty deep group here. They have 12. That's the most on the slate. If you were to play a GPP option or something like that, just a dart throw, I'd look at Josh Ali. 2022 UDFA, he's a guy that's received some hype, and that's basically it. Because if you're going to these teams that have a lot of receivers active, I think you're trying to read the tea leaves more than anything else. Very hard to project the situation because Drake London, Mac Hollins, these guys are going to play. Probably not a lot, but that's still siphon snaps away from other players.
Okay. And then you have Michael Pruitt as your highest projected Falcons tight end. He's down at like 10th on the board, but he's within 0.7 of the top projected tight end. They're all just so close in that band. Are you playing any Pruitt here?
Yeah, he's in one lineup.
All right. So one lineup of Pruitt. All right. I think that'll do it for Atlanta. We can move on to Miami. Any interest? Your top projected quarterback is Skylar Thompson. Tell me about your level of interest in these Miami quarterbacks.
It's very high. Tagovailoa is not going to play. Mike White and Skylar should get a half or around there, give or take. Mike White's a pocket statue, and Skylar Thompson runs a lot. We've seen it in college, and he started a couple games last year, I believe. It's like 2 or 3 he actually started. But the good mobility gives him the edge in this spot. Playing time, mobility, that combination, that should get you on Skylar Thompson.
Okay, Pro Football Talk. I've had multiple people send me messages that Ritter is out. Pro Football Talk does say that he's not expected to play. Roto Baller says he won't play, which, I mean, we'd have to read the report closer, but seems like a lot of people think that Ritter is not going to play. So it sounds like you would then have more interest in the other Atlantic quarterbacks working under that assumption.
Yeah, they would still be behind the Miami quarterbacks, and I would still probably have Adrian Martinez ahead of him. The quarterbacks would kind of be like right in line with New York, who will get to that situation too. But they would definitely jump, and I would start trying to play some.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it seems like everything that I'm seeing just says that he is not expected to play. I don't know if he's actually inactive. Do they do inactives for preseason?
Some teams do, some teams don't.
Okay. All right. So we'll try and see if we can find more, but it does sound like Ritter's probably not going to play. So maybe a bump.
A lot of people are tweeting it now. Underdog's just probably a little behind.
Yep. All right. So Ritter does appear to be out. Are you going to have to run a projections update to update for Ritter being out? Is that going to affect the pass catchers at all?
It's not going to affect the pass catchers, but
okay.
I don't know. It's hard to run updates when I'm on the stream.
I know, like you are on a live show. You can't really be doing projections updates all that easily, and like your projections updates on, especially on a slate like this where it's like it's going to be a half a point boost to whatever. I don't know.
We'll see. I'll work on it. But if I'm slow to respond, that's why.
All right.
Well, what does this report say? So the actual tweet reads from a Beat Reportable teams. Logan Woodside will get a lot of the Falcons reps tonight. All right. We will go from there.
All right. So maybe a little boost to Logan Woodside here with Ritter being out. We'll do the maybe while I'm doing the prize picks read, we can have you running your projections update, give you a little bit more time there.
I'm doing it
to
right
work
now.
on it. Okay. Perfect. We are still we're talking about this second game. We're talking about the Dolphin side of the game generally, and then we'll touch back on the Falcon side once we do have the projections updated. As far as the Dolphins go, so a lot of interest in the quarterbacks. It sounds like running backs not projecting nearly as close to the top for the Dolphins. Do you think you were playing any Salvin Ahmed or Myles Gaskin, any of these Dolphins running backs?
I have none of them.
All right. Well, that
I would
is
play
an easy
like
answer.
if you're playing one, I would probably just like go for the rookie hype.
A-Chain?
Yeah, A-Chain. But I like Ahmed and Gaskin. They know exactly what they have in those guys, and I forget the fourth stringer's name off the top of my head. There's a fourth guy there, but not too much interest.
John Lovett, it looks like, is our fourth.
He's
projected.
Injured, so maybe there's just 3.
Okay. All right. And then, I mean, you have a lot of interest in the Miami quarterbacks. And I know you said you're not stacking, you're not forcing the stacks in preseason, but still, if the quarterbacks are likely to do well, probably some of these pass catchers are going to do well. Also, tell me about your level of interest in these Miami receivers and or tight ends.
I believe Eric Ezukanma is one of the highest projected guys for us. This is a guy, a second-year player out of Texas Tech. They drafted him. I'm on the projections page right now, but so I'm going off memory. He was drafted in highly, and he was injured for the first 10 or so days of camp, returned this week. He's a guy they're going to be evaluating against the Braxton Berrioses, the Freddie Swains. So because of that draft capital, I'm anticipating him being the number one. But I think you can mix in some of those other players like Swain, like Berrios as well here.
Okay. So Ezukanma is your the one you have the most interest in. What are your exposures to these Miami guys?
Ezukama is at 32%. He's tied for my second most receiver. Got 4% Berrios, 4% Swain.
Okay.
It's a lot of Ezukama.
And then the tight ends, doesn't look like any of the tight ends are projected particularly well for you.
This is a complete mess.
Okay. So no interest in playing the tight ends.
They have like
Miami.
6 guys.
Okay. I'm assuming that you have not run your update yet for the Falcons.
It's almost done.
All right. So let's do the Giants and Lions. Well, then I'll get you to tell me. Maybe I'll do the Giants and Lions. We'll do the PrizePicks read, and then after that, maybe you can tell me.
Woodside's going to be like a top 4 guy, though. I can tell you that.
Is that really the only thing that's changing? Like maybe we don't even need to get back to it. Like you're going to have interest in Woodside. Do we need to go back?
Like
to that
the passing numbers are going to change marginally based on efficiency. Say like the receivers might bump up and down like 1 or 2 spots, but it's not going to be huge because they're all bad. Like none of their efficiencies are good.
Okay. All right. All right. Moving on to the third game of the slate. We've got the Giants and the Lions. This is an interesting one of the higher implied team totals as well. I guess they're kind of middling actually. The Giants with a 19.25 implied team total, Lions 17.25 implied team total. Starting with the quarterbacks, looks like Adrian Martinez is currently your second highest projected quarterback. We can do both the teams at once. What is your level of interest in Adrian Martinez, Tommy DeVito, or anybody else on this slate?
This is a good quarterback area to target. Adrian Martinez, he's going to be the QB3 here, but Goff's not going to play. So Martinez runs a ton. He's a UDFA out of Kansas State, played previously at Nebraska. That's really what breaks the tie here. It's that rushing equity he provides. And there's a chance he plays, like a half and some change for this team. So that has me really intrigued. Detroit's not a team that uses their starters often, and Sudfeld's not really mobile whatsoever. Bridgewater was signed this week, but he's not going to be active for this game. And then Daniel Jones isn't projected to play. That means you're going to see Tyrod Taylor, Tommy DeVito. I think they both get a half.
Okay. And what would be the top? Like, do you think anybody's going to play a full 3 quarters today, or is a half like the most any quarterback can expect to play?
A half and maybe a little more. Adrian Martinez would fit that mold. A couple other guys that might are like Skylar Thompson, just because that's so thin. But I think the New York situation's split pretty evenly.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll at the end of the show, we'll do a recap of like just talking about like playing time, who you expect to get the most playing time. How about so for the Giants, it sounds like you have some interest in Tommy DeVito. Tyrod Taylor also projects pretty well for you. Actually, yeah, just behind Tommy DeVito. Are you playing some Tyrod Taylor as well?
Yes, I am. The rushing equity is enough, and I don't really think there's much of a competition for the backup role here. It should be Tyrod, but DeVito's going to get his looks today, and I think that's largely just because New York doesn't care about the preseason.
Okay, so we are expecting Tommy DeVito to play pretty significantly. Somebody in chat said that DeVito is going to get like 3 plus quarters for the Giants. Eric T, and I
don't know. I mean, they know Tyrod's their backup.
Yeah, and we've seen other people kind of backing that up. Other people seem to think that too. So maybe DeVito, somebody that could see has some upside in that playing time.
Let's move on. Should be through, Neil, if you want to look.
Oh, perfect. All right, I will update mine in 1 second. But I'll cue you up for talking about the running backs here. Starting with Detroit, your highest projected player is Muhammad Ibrahim. But then Jamar Jefferson also projects pretty well for you. And then we'll start with the Detroit side. What was your level of interest in these Detroit running backs?
Yeah, it's really high. There's a ton of injuries. You basically have Mo Ibrahim projected to handle most of the work. And this is a late news situation kind of too with Craig Reynolds. We don't think he's going to play, but we'll have to see. If he plays, that could siphon off some opportunities. But really, not expecting Gibbs, not expecting Montgomery, not expecting Reynolds. they're two back end guys they signed within the last 2 days. These are just warm bodies to play the practice squad, the scout team at camp. Mo Ibrahim is a guy they actually brought in as a UDFA from Minnesota. As long as like Gibbs doesn't play, which we're not anticipating him, same with Montgomery, this is going to be the best role running back wise on the entire slate.
Okay. So you really like Ibrahim today. What about the second running back there?
Jamar Jefferson, I think, is fine too. He should probably be among the top 5 or 6 guys on this slate. And really, it just comes down to he was banged up in practice this week too. And Ibrahim's the guy they want to evaluate. You've seen Jefferson there for a little bit too. So I think that's what breaks the tie ultimately.
Okay. So ultimately, Ibrahim is your preference there. What about these New York running backs?
New York has a situation here, kind of like Green Bay, where you're looking at a battle between what I think is going to be Eric Gray and Jayshon Corbin. Gary Brightwell's injured, so he's not going to play. Saquon's not going to play. Breed is the clear backup. And Corbin actually got a little bit of run last year, but Eric Gray is the guy they drafted in the 5th round this year out of Oklahoma. Pretty productive back. Expecting a split similar to the Tyler Goodson, Patrick Taylor split in Green Bay, with Eric Gray likely leading that slightly. Like James Robinson, he's just a warm body they brought in for camp. He's their scout team guy. Not expecting much from James Robinson.
Okay. And then Jameson Williams seems interested to me. So he is your top projected receiver. He's also apparently listed as out on DraftKings, hard to find on FanDuel. All of these are bonuses for me, reasons to play Jameson Williams if other people are not going to play him because of that. But tell me, starting with Detroit, what is your level of interest in these receivers?
He's listed as out because of the suspension. He's out for week 1. So
right.
You'll see
that's
that
going to affect the ownership, I would assume. Like for casual players are going to see that and be like, all right, not playing him.
Probably. And then, I mean, their coaching staff has come right out and said they're going to force feed him opportunities today. He's come on slowly. He's kind of been a little bit of a head case in camp. He's had some personal absences. He was kind of ripped by the coaching staff saying he needs to be at practice, and he hasn't quite assimilated to the offense, I think, the way they thought he would. So he's going to get opportunities because he's not where he needs to be for the regular season. And that's everything the coaching staff indicated. As long as Campbell's not straight up lying to our faces, he should see the most targets on anyone on the slate, barring something really weird.
Okay. And so apparently James Williams no longer listed as out. Maybe that's not actually a factor in preseason because you're not really getting casuals. Like, are casuals really playing preseason NFL DFS?
Probably. I don't know, dude. I saw some egregious things last night.
Okay. All right. How about the Giants receivers here? Any interest there?
Yeah, Jalen Hyatt should get evaluated here. Strong rookie. There's a lot of jockeying in this New York pass catching room for positions, like who's actually going to start and play the wide receiver 1 and stuff like that. Sterling and Wandale aren't going to play here, but they've also been pretty vocal about getting Jalen Hyatt his opportunities. And that's a general trend in the preseason. You see rookies a lot of times getting opportunities. We saw it with Addison last night, saw it a little bit with Quentin Johnston. Hyatt's going to get that treatment.
Nice. So we should see a little. That's fun. Seeing a little bit of Jalen Hyatt. It's been kind of fun seeing the highlights of the rookies early on here.
Yeah, man. Did you see the Addison catch?
Yeah, that was such a great catch. The Chris Carter sideline catch. I love it so much. If he can fill that Chris Carter role, that just is going to bring me back to my childhood, bring me all the joy. Yeah, that was great. Looking at tight ends, Lawrence Cager is your 5th projected tight end here. What is your level of interest in? We can talk both teams. And Lawrence Cager looks like he's your top projected, but who do you like from tight end for Detroit or New York here?
Not too much interest in Detroit. Maybe you could throw a flyer on Laporta just because the rookie needs to assimilate, but they have a lot of tight ends that are going to be active tonight. New York doesn't have quite as many. We're not expecting to see any. Darren Waller. I don't think Bellinger plays a ton either. From there, Cager, he's a former wide receiver. He played wide receiver at Miami and Georgia for a little bit, and they don't have quite as many bodies. And when you look at the rest of that depth chart here, it's a lot of like Chris Myrick is listed as a tight end, but technically he's a fullback on the roster. So I don't think you're dealing with as many bodies as people might actually think.
Okay, nice. And then somebody, I don't know if you mentioned him, Mims. You have Mims projected pretty well. I assume, did you mention Mims at all? Denzel? I
didn't. And I just actually got my updated crunch and I had to increase my exposure to these Atlanta quarterbacks.
Yeah,
you should do the same. They're probably going to be under-owned. But all right, we can circle back a little bit now because I definitely missed some guys.
Okay.
I do have interest in Mims. He's battling for a roster spot, especially because he's been injured. He just returned to practice 2 days ago. I think he's largely competing with guys like Antoine Green, their seventh round pick out of North Carolina. He's the field stretcher. And like Jameson Williams, Dan Campbell came right out and said he's struggling with consistency. So beyond Jameson Williams, I'm playing a bit of Denzel Mims and Antoine Green as well.
Okay, so those are your Detroit guys. Anything else to say about this game?
I don't think so. I definitely missed some stuff. So if you have questions about specific players, sorry, I know I missed some guys when we were doing the projections update and then the crunch update. But yeah, just let us know.
I think that you touched on all of the highest projected guys at the very least. So we
That's
covered like the most important ones, I think. Like I was kind of tracking, at least I was trying to. But yeah, if you guys see anybody that Matt did not bring up that you wanted to talk about, bring it up in chat. We will cover it here.
I see a guy in chat saying Dylan Drummond. He's interesting. He's kind of like right on the guys I just cut out. He's been getting a lot of hype from Dan Campbell, but this is a UDFA out of Eastern Michigan. Like, what are the chances Dylan Drummond actually makes this team? I think they're really low. So I don't know how much you see of him outside of just pure third string mop up duty. Like, I love Dylan Drummond. He was sick in college football DFS, but I mean, can he actually make this roster? Probably not.
But is it like, does that matter? Like, if he does get that third string mop up duty tonight, like, would that be enough potentially for him to make? Because like the scores are so low from what I've seen. Like, if he does play, if he catches one touchdown, is that like a possibility?
For sure. We see that a lot. We saw it in the Hall of Fame game.
Sure.
It's just you're taking calculated bets. So for reference, Antoine Green plays 30 snaps, Drummond plays 15. Who's more likely to score a touchdown? Antoine Green probably, but that doesn't mean Drummond couldn't be the guy that does it. For 150 builds, I think he's right there.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. Like sure, it could happen, but like ultimately we're just betting on the higher probabilities, and he's not the highest probability here, so probably not the best bet. All right, so we made it through the first 3 games on the slate. Got 3 more to get through. But guys, this show is sponsored by PrizePicks. If you've watched our shows, you know all about PrizePicks by now, but we love it. We play it all the time, and you can get 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum and up to $100 deposit match bonus with PrizePicks when you sign up and make a deposit at PrizePicks. If you use the link in the description of this video, or I'm sure Jordan is posting it in chat for us, really is a fun way to attack sports betting. I mean, it's not exactly sports betting. It's not DFS. It's its own thing. It's a you're making cards of sort of parlays like stuff on PrizePicks. Check it out if you haven't already. They just give you a number of prop bets essentially, and you have to pick the over or the under on each of those prop bets. You can win up to 25x your entry fee on PrizePicks. And of course, the one thing that we can offer that nobody else can offer with PrizePicks, so everybody can offer you that first deposit match bonus. Nobody else can offer you that free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum, though. And that's a fantastic deal, especially right now. It's a perfect time to take advantage of it. You're going to get some NFL, all of the MLB season. So check it out if you haven't already. When you sign up for PrizePicks, it's worth it just to get that free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum, in my opinion. Check it out if you haven't already. Link is in the description of this video or in chat. We should move on, though. We've only got 20 minutes left, and we got 3 more games to get through. The next game on the slate for us, Steelers versus Buccaneers. Steelers have the second highest implied team total on the slate, 21.25 for the Steelers, 18.25 for the Bucs. Starting at the quarterback position, what's your level of interest in the Steelers quarterbacks?
It's low. They're carrying a lot of guys. I do not have anyone from the Steelers.
Okay. So I mean that season you got a high implied team total, but like, yeah, looking at your projections, none of them are probably not playing a ton of time for any of these individual quarterbacks. How about the running backs for the Steelers?
I don't believe I have a lot of interest there. We're just getting a lot of news, so I'm trying to keep projections updated too.
Yep,
there's been a recent report that Tyrod's only playing in a cameo role, which is lovely. So you should probably increase exposure to one Tommy DeVito. So I'm fixing that on the back end. Sorry, I forgot what you asked me.
Just asking about these Steelers players. So your top
backs?
Projected here. Do you want me to go through, just like tell them who your top projected are on these while you are doing your update, and then we can circle back to your level of interest for these different players?
I don't have a lot of interest in the Steelers. I have a little bit of Anthony McFarland from my last crunch. That's what I can tell you.
Okay. Yeah. Anthony McFarland is your highest projected Steeler, followed by Darius Hagans, your number 2. Looking at wide receivers for the Steelers, nobody projects extremely well for you. I mean, Matt's not playing any of the quarterbacks. Highest projected wide receiver, as far as I can tell, is Gunnar Olszewski, with a projection that's down at like wide receiver 35 or something. So nothing to write home about for any of these receivers, really. Probably not a ton of interest there. Tight ends, your highest projected tight end on the entire slate is Darnell Washington for the Steelers, rookie, trying to show off a little bit in the preseason here. Anything else worth talking about with the Steelers? Is there anybody that you're getting significant exposure to for the Steelers?
Darnell Washington, for sure, the tight end, is someone I'm getting a lot of exposure to. They're only carrying 4 guys, which we should definitely be looking at. And one of them's Freiermuth. So right away, I think we could definitely look to Darnell, 3rd round pick, a guy that I think is probably going to get a lot of run tonight. And there's not much behind him. So he's the number 1 for me there.
Okay. A lot of talk in chat about undrafted players, and somebody asked, is it best to avoid undrafted players in preseason DFS? Do you have an opinion on that, Matt?
Not necessarily, just trying to read like the tea leaves with each of those situations.
Okay. All right. The Buccaneers. So we, on the other side of this game, Buccaneers starting at quarterback. You don't have any of the Bucs quarterbacks projected extremely well. Do you have any interest in playing them here?
No, they're carrying 3 of them, and there's like a battle between Mayfield and Trask, and Wolford probably gets that mop-up duty. So much better situations now, especially with like DeVito opening up and some of these situations.
Okay. Sean Tucker looks like he's about your 10th ranked running back. Are you playing any Sean Tucker today?
Yeah, I think he's fine. A couple situations are better, but he'll be the guy they look at primarily, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, you got a projection for Patrick Laird and Keyshawn Vaughn, but a little bit lower down the board. Yeah, lovely guys, but we kind of know what they are at this point. Looking at wide receiver, Devin Tompkins is your 3rd highest projected receiver on the Bucs. Actually, you've got a number of Bucs receivers that project pretty well for you here, so we should run down the Bucs receivers, your level of interest in these guys.
Yeah, they're only carrying 8 receivers, so that's tied with Miami for the fewest on the slate. And then I think there's some pretty clear valuations here. You have your top 3, very clear: Godwin, Evans, Gage. And then they drafted Trey Palmer. They had Tompkins from last year. He's having an excellent camp. And then they have a pretty good UDFA out of Maryland, Raheem Jarrett, 6 feet, 190, ran a 4.44 40-yard dash. These 3 should see quite a bit of work. And David Moore's actually played pretty well in camp too. He's been working a lot with the Mayfield unit. I think you can mix and match those 4 in particular. With Tompkins getting all the praise, he's someone we should definitely look at. Latest projection update is also in, so hopefully I can be a little more present. Sorry, guys.
All right, perfect. All right, well then I will redo those. I'll upload those. At tight end, Payne Durham is your highest projected tight end for Tampa. Are you playing any Payne Durham?
I'm not playing any Payne Durham.
Okay. All right, we should let's try. We'll go quickly through these last 2 games, because I do think that we should just do like an overview of like your top 5 at each position or something. I think that would probably be useful. I see David calling for it, and I think that it makes sense. A lot of people aren't going to know exactly, so we probably should go over.
It's changed. So if you like read the article this morning, this has definitely influenced it.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, let's do that now. Actually, I think that it would be a good idea just to like let's do just your top 5 at each position. If you are, do you think you're prepared to do that, Matt? I know we were preparing to do game by game, but
yeah, I think I can do it pretty well.
All right. Let's start at quarterbacks. We'll just do the top 5s first. Quarterbacks, who are your top 5 most interesting quarterbacks here?
I think there's a pretty clear top 3 with DeVito, Thompson, and Martinez. I haven't had any time to like think the order through, but DeVito is probably going to get like 3 quarters here now with Tyrod. Yeah. Essentially, Tyrod might play a drive. He might play a quarter. It's mostly going to be DeVito in this game. Skylar Thompson, we talked about him already, just 2 QBs. He has the rushing equity. It's essentially the same thing with Adrian Martinez. So those are the 2 I'm really looking towards here. And then my 4 and 5 are probably going to be Heineke and Woodside, now that we don't have any Ritter. I'm not sure on my exposures yet, but I'm probably going to be heavily invested in the top 3, DeVito, Skylar, and Adrian Martinez more than anyone else.
Okay. And did you see the update that apparently Jarrett Stidham is not playing?
No, that's lovely.
So you just finished updating your projections. Is that going to change things for you as far like would a Denver quarterback make it into your top five?
DiNucci might. I don't think we're going to see a lot of Russ.
XFL legend Ben DiNucci.
He runs a little bit. So where is this Jarrett Stidham news? He's actually inactive.
It's just in chat, but I've seen multiple people throwing it out there in chat, so I want to should at least check.
Jeepers. This has been a fun stream.
Yeah, we are. It's hard to do this, guys, because we're just getting news all throughout the stream. So we're doing our best for you, but we'll keep doing the top fives. I think that's probably just makes the most sense at this point to just kind of.
I don't see this Stidham news yet. I'm on Twitter, but anyway.
Okay.
So those top five are where I'm going to stick with for now.
Okay. Running backs. Who are your top five most interesting running backs?
This hasn't really changed. It's Mo Ibrahim 1. And then I think you want to look to can I just do three situations? Because I don't really have too strong of preferences between the two, but there's like Green Bay, New York, and Atlanta are all going to have essentially two running backs competing. I think it's for Green Bay, Goodson and Taylor. For New York, I think it's Eric Gray, Jayshon Corbin. And for Atlanta, I think it's Carlos Washington, Godwin Igwebuike. The last player I would throw into this mix is either Jamar Jefferson for Detroit or Demetric Felton for Cleveland. You're not going to see a lot of Chubb. Jerome Ford's hurt, and they don't have a lot of running backs there. Felton played the most snaps, got the most work, and looked really good in his cameo in the Hall of Fame game. Those are the running backs I'm focusing most of my attention on.
Matt, I'm sorry. I was incorrect before when I said Jarrett Stidham. They were talking about Raheem Jarrett is out.
Oh, okay.
Does that affect?
Well, don't play Raheem Jarrett.
Okay. So that's not going to affect as much for you. I mean, you had him projected there, but makes the other guys look a little bit better.
Yeah, I think Tampa. So. I'm not going to update that projection, but
okay.
If you're using Cruncher or you're just making lineups by hand or something, I would manually boost Thompkins, Trey Palmer, and David Moore.
Okay. So just a tiny little boost. Don't give them a huge boost because this is still preseason and every projection is so low. You don't want to have 100% of all those guys.
I need to do my lineups. I can't keep updating projections.
I know. Yeah, this is rough. Wide receivers, top five wide receivers.
All right. Top two, I think. Well, yeah, the Raheem Jarrett news changes it. Jameson's 1, and then in no particular order, I would say Jalen Hyatt, Devin Thompkins, Eric Ezukanma. Probably I'm gonna say like Trey Palmer or David Moore for the 5th one now.
Okay, so it does actually affect things having Jarrett out of there. All right, tight ends, top 5.
Darnell, Musgrave, Cole Turner from Washington, Cager is my 4th, and I don't have a 5th. I would just spray and pray after that.
You have Jordan Akins. Your last run, at least that I did, you had Jordan Akins in there as well. You're not playing in Jordan Akins though?
I have some Jordan Akins. He just okay. So like I need to rerun my crunch, but my current crunch, I've redone this a bunch of times on streams. So it's probably not even accurate compared to what I said earlier. I had this current one has Darnell at 34, Musgrave at 20, Turner at 16, Cager at 12, and then Akins is at 6. So Akins would be 5, but he's not that far from the other guys.
Okay.
But I mean, this isn't finished. We'll see.
All right. Spencer asked Neil, who drops 39? I don't know what you're meaning by that. Who drops 39? Like which team? No opinion for me.
Nobody I think, does.
Yeah. And we've done your top 5 at every position. So I thought it was, good idea to get that out of the way early. We still want to do a little bit of a deep dive on the individual teams just in case, because obviously you're not covering everybody with the top 5s. So we're going to move back to, we do have 2 games left to talk about, starting with Washington at Cleveland. Washington, the quarterback, pretty far down your list. Sam Howell is your top projected quarterback from Washington. You playing any Washington quarterbacks here?
Definitely not now that we got this news.
We got Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I know is somebody who has been a preseason darling. You playing any DTR?
Now I have 2% of him. I had a little bit more earlier, but a lot of these like random one-offs that I had before are now going to DeVito and Woodside and Heineke.
Okay. So yeah, just harder to prioritize him with other quarterbacks, seeming like they're going to have more volume. All right. Running backs, For Washington, I don't see anybody projected near the top four. You playing any Washington running backs?
I'm not.
Okay. How about Cleveland running backs? Demetric Felton is your fourth overall projected running back.
Yep, I played Demetric Felton. I think he's completely fine.
Any Hassan Hall?
I have, if I do, it's going to be like the last crunch had 5%. So it's
Okay.
going to be like, I would guess between 2% and 10%.
All right. Wide receivers, Washington, again, nobody projected near the top. You playing any Washington receivers here?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Cleveland, on the other hand, two of your top four projected, and then David Bell not far behind. But our top two, we have Anthony Schwartz as your second overall receiver in terms of projection in your last update. Cedric Tillman fourth, and then David Bell down around 10th projected wide receiver. So I assume you have some interest in these Cleveland receivers.
Yeah, definitely. They're only carrying 9, so narrowly behind Tampa Bay and Miami for some of the best places to go on this slate. And then with Cleveland, they kind of already tipped their hand. We had a Hall of Fame game. They're trying to evaluate Anthony Schwartz more than anyone else. He like doubled up the next highest receiver in terms of snaps. And Tillman's getting that Jalen Hyatt, that Jordan Addison treatment where he's on the field quite a bit and they're evaluating him. Second round pick, or excuse me, third round pick. So that makes a lot of sense. I like those guys.
Okay. And David Bell also.
Yeah, David Bell, like him too.
Okay. And then tight end, I mean, you're not especially interested in Jordan Akins. We talked about it just briefly, but he is, he's in your top 5 in terms of projection. So he's somebody that you're going to play some of, but you're not like super excited about. And Cole Turner is you're actually ahead of him in terms of projection. So couple of good tight ends from this game.
Yes, sir.
All right. Final game of the slate, and then we'll circle back to any questions that you guys have. Denver at Arizona is the final game of the slate. The Broncos have a 21.7 implied team total. That is the highest on the slate. The Cardinals at 15.75. Looking at the Broncos, Jarrett Stidham is not out. So we do have a split between Ben DiNucci and Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. Do you still have any interest in DiNucci here or Stidham?
No, not with the updates, DeVito and the Atlanta situation.
Okay. And then how about Arizona? You don't have any quarterbacks projected particularly well here. Any interest?
No, this is the worst situation on the whole slate. With Kyler out, they still have 4 active quarterbacks.
Okay. Moving on to running back then. We have Jaleel McLaughlin is your top Denver running back, but he's pretty far down the board. Are you playing any Denver running backs here?
No, this is a really hard situation kind of across the board because Denver's running their starters between 15 and 18 snaps. So you're going to see Javonte, you're going to see P. Ryan. That's going to give us like 5 backs that are going to play today.
Okay. And similarly, Arizona, nobody in the top screen for me in terms of your projection. Are you playing any Arizona running backs?
Similar situation. They're just holding more backs on their roster. So even though I don't think we see a lot of the James Connors of this world, they still have Keontae Ingram, Corey Clement, Mari DeMarcado, Tyson Williams, Stevie Scott. A lot of guys to compete with when you can get essentially a couple backfields that have 2 or 3 guys.
Okay. Looking at the receivers, you do have a couple Denver receivers pretty high up on the board. Jalen Virgil looks like he's like your 7th overall top projected receiver. Marquez Callaway, 9th overall. Tell me about your level of interest in all Denver receivers.
Yeah, it's decent. I like Callaway. I like Virgil. And I'm going to play a little bit of Mims here too. I'm not sure how many snaps Mims get. I think he might get the starter treatment between 15 and 18. They didn't really talk a lot about him. So if you personally have a different read on this and you think Mims gets extra run beyond the 15 to 18 snaps, I would just give him a boost. But I kind of put him right in line with Judy and Sutton.
Okay. And then Arizona, your top projected, he's a little bit down the board, but Michael Wilson, the rookie, getting some hype here. He's your top projected Arizona receiver here. Are you playing any Arizona receivers though?
A little bit of Michael Wilson. Tough situation for Arizona. They have 10 active receivers. So you're kind of right in the middle here. But Michael Wilson's the guy. They drafted him out of Stanford pretty highly too. It's a big athletic receiver. He's 6'2", 213. And by all accounts, he's having an excellent camp. And he legitimately might push to be their wide receiver 3. So I think there is a lot of interest here in Michael Wilson.
Who is currently their wide receiver? I mean, they've got Rondell Moore and Marquise Brown as their top 2, I think. Is it Greg Dortch currently?
Probably, but I don't know. They have 3 slots. So Michael Wilson kind of plays a different position is at 6'2", 213. So he might just play because I don't know if you can run those 3 slots out there at the same time.
Yeah, it seems like he's probably going to push for some playing time. And then at tight end, we don't have neither of the teams has a particularly highly projected tight end, but they're not far down the board. Noah Togiai, whatever. Tell me about your level of interest in the tight ends from both these teams.
Yeah, I got a couple shares of Noah Togiai, but very few.
Okay. And then Adam Troutman.
Yep, same with him.
Okay. All right. So that we got through all of the games. We can just answer any questions that anybody has. I thought Stayod asked an interesting question earlier, and now I'm not finding it. Yep, I'm missing it now. Where was the Stayod?
Just re-ask it.
Oh, he was asking, are we expecting DTR to get more defensive pressure this time out? No one is really talking about him after a big game last time out. Are you thinking he's going to get some more defensive pressure?
They're going to play Watson for a little bit here. So you're just going to have more guys on the field for Cleveland at quarterback. Whereas in the last game, they basically had DTR take a half and Mon take a half. So just less playing time for DTR.
Timeout Sports wants DeVito yards projection. How many yards are you expecting for DeVito here?
Oh, man. Give me a sec to pull him up.
All right. Well, while you're pulling
120.
That up, you've got it right. That was quick. Okay. I want to tell you guys, if you have not yet signed up for our NFL preseason package, it's $19.95 per week or $55.95 for all 4 weeks of the preseason. All this info that we're reading you, all of these projections, you can get those for just $19.95 per week. You don't have to have us read them to you. You'll be more prepared ahead of time if you do get access to our projections. You can find a link in the description of this video. It comes with the projections, depth charts, and even premium Discord access to Gajewski here. So really worth the price of admission if you're going to be playing a lot of preseason DFS, which I assume you are. If you're watching the stream, you have some interest in playing some preseason DFS. So make sure you check it out if you haven't already. Again, the link should be in chat in the description of this video. Going forward, it would be helpful for you to have access to our preseason projections. The depth charts also very helpful. And then, of course, asking Matt questions is always going to be extremely helpful. So check it out if you haven't already. We've still got 3 more weeks of the preseason after this weekend. Plenty of time to take advantage of those projections. All right, getting back to the slate. I mean, we covered all of the games. Let's see if anybody else has more questions. What are you saying about Colin Johnson here? What was the question?
It was between Colin Johnson and David Sills. Someone just asked it above.
Anthony Masili wants to know your favorite low-owned play on FanDuel for the flex position.
Oh, man. Favorite low-owned play? Going to go to my crunch and see who I like. Probably Dontavian Wicks for Green Bay. That's a 5th-round pick out of Virginia. He's probably going to get a little run with the Love group and then play extensively with Clifford because he is behind Reed and some of those guys. That's a deep cut, though. You got to be playing big GPPs for getting a little Wicks love.
Nick Ostro says Tyson Williams late night hammer. What do you think of Tyson Williams?
They got a lot of running backs there, so you're tempting fate, but I mean, he's actually pretty good, so we'll see.
It is funny that there's one game at 10 o'clock. Every other game starts at 7 or 7:30, and then just one game at 10 o'clock, Denver and Arizona. So if you want to have some exposure to that late night game, maybe it'll be more fun for you. Maybe you
Tyson for showdown then.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Oh, good point. Are you playing some showdown tonight, Matt?
Oh yeah.
Do you think that Darnell Washington will live up to the hype?
Yes, I love Darnell Washington. He's my favorite tight end in the draft.
Oh, seriously, man. Because I'm a big Muth guy. So now is he going to take away from Muth?
No, I don't think so. Maybe they run a lot of 12. He went to a horrific situation for playing time. That was really sad. I wanted a team that had a wide open tight end room to take him.
God is in chat. God asks, which Packers running back do you prefer?
I prefer Tyler Goodson. Slightly.
But you like both of them.
Yes.
You're not playing them together, but you don't think it's necessarily crazy. It's an interesting question, as I recall. Are there any teams that you are playing 2 running backs together?
No.
How many snaps is Baker Mayfield expected to play?
I would probably say 30-ish.
Oh, this is a good question from Jerry Lou. Do you have any cash game locks?
DeVito, Ibrahim, Jamison Williams, Thompkins.
All right, that's plenty of cash game locks, I'd say. Any interest in Lil Jordan Humphreys?
Yeah, I think he's fine. He's kind of like in that Drummond category for me, where little bit of extra bodies here, but he's battling for a roster spot. What I like about little Jordan Humphrey is that he's played with this offense before. He was with Peyton in New Orleans. So yeah, I mean he's also enormous. You're thinking about like archetypes that could score a touchdown. Yeah, I don't hate him.
Vita Kuzalo. Man, I'm so bad with pronunciations recently. Vita asks or says, I personally don't think RB1 should play preseason. That's just me. Do we have any RB1s playing today?
Javonte.
Oh, Javonte is playing. That is right. He didn't play last week and then say he's playing this week. That's so strange. Mitchell Tyler asked, do you like Green Bay's defense? Do you have any kind of way to differentiate between these defenses at all, or is it all just kind of a crapshoot?
I just turn up randomness, but I would go based on the quarterbacks they're facing. Green Bay's got a pretty good draw there. You don't have Joe Burrow. So yeah, like Green Bay's defense. Green Bay also has a good defense, real life defense. So yeah, Green Bay's fine.
All right. Any final thoughts, Matt?
Thank you guys for being here. I think as far as the slate goes, we hit everything. It's crazy. So hopefully tomorrow it's a little cleaner.
Yeah, hopefully tomorrow is a little bit cleaner. It'll be me and Matt once again tomorrow at 11 Central. That is noon Eastern for you elitists out there who need us to read the Eastern time. It'll be at noon tomorrow. We're going to go for an hour. Should be a good show. So check that one out as well. Thank you guys for watching once again. And if you haven't done so, please do hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live if you want those alerts. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been real. Good luck tonight.